Imagine a noir detective Spider-Man, a cartoon pig swinging from skyscrapers.
Even a futuristic one piloting a high-tech suit.
It's Marvel's Spider-Verse,
The Spider-Verse dives headfirst into the mind-bending concept of the multiverse,
suggesting that countless parallel universes exist.
each with its own version of reality, and it's not just a comic book thing.
We see this idea explored all over.
In movies, books, TV shows.
The animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse brought this concept to life,
Winning an Onger.
and showing how these diverse spider people could explore identity and destiny.
It really resonated with audiences.
Miles Morales, a teenager of African-American and Puerto Rican descent, becomes Spider-Man in his universe.
He ends up teaming up with a bunch of other spider people from other dimensions.
An older, more jaded Peter B. Parker.
Spider-Gwen, even Spider-Ham.
It's a wild ride.
This approach allowed them to explore heroism in a way we don't always see,
From different cultural perspectives, examining what makes a hero.
and what it means to take on that mantle.
There's a stark contrast between the Spider-Verse's vibrancy and the DC Comics event Flashpoint.
Flashpoint goes in a much darker direction, exploring the potential consequences of altering the past.
Barry Allen, also known as the Flash,
Tries to change the past to save his mom.
with unintended consequences.
He creates this messed up alternate timeline where heroes are twisted,
It's really bleak.
and the world is teetering on the edge of total war.
It becomes a warning.
About messing with forces we may not fully grasp.
And the butterfly effect.
Now, even a seemingly small action can have huge unforeseen consequences.
In Flashpoint, we see drastic changes.
It's not just minor differences in personality.
These heroes are fundamentally different.
At their core,
Thomas Wayne becomes a ruthless Batman.
consumed by grief.
Wonder Woman and Aquaman
Usually allies.
are locked in a brutal war.
Imagine that.
And even Superman
Raised in captivity.
is a shell of his former self.
A far cry from the symbol of hope we know.
These changes underscore the potential for darkness in these alternate realities.
It's a sobering thought.
Compared to the Spider-Verse, which celebrates possibility, diversity.
And the idea that anyone can be a hero.
Flashpoint is a warning,
About the fragility of time.
and the potential consequences of tampering with forces we may not understand.
Both of these stories really highlight how versatile the multiverse concept is.
As a storytelling tool,
We can use it to explore all these different themes.
like what it means to be a hero
The nature of choice.
and the power of hope.
These stories tap into something that fascinates us, this idea of parallel universes.
These what-ifs.
These possibilities that exist beyond our own reality.
Could there be other versions of ourselves out there?
Maybe.
Are our choices really shaping reality, or are we just playing out predetermined roles?
It's a question that has captivated us for ages.
These multiverse narratives let us explore these questions in a safe fictional space.
In a way, it's a thought experiment.
We can see the potential consequences of actions, the weight of choices.
Like in Into the Spider-Verse.
Miles chooses to be Spider-Man, a seemingly small act.
But it has a huge ripple effect, saving his universe and potentially countless others.
In Flashpoint, we see the opposite. A well-intentioned choice leads to widespread suffering.
It's the butterfly effect in action.
Even the smallest change can have these massive consequences.
That's the terrifying beauty of the multiverse.
It forces us to consider the interconnectedness of events, the weight of every action.
It makes you realize that maybe we aren't as in control as we like to think.
Into the Spider-Verse did a great job introducing these multiverse ideas.
Without getting bogged down in technical details.
It made it accessible to anyone curious,
They used visual cues and metaphors that worked really well.
like how they depicted Miles going from one universe to another.
It was like leaping through dimensional barriers.
The animation style itself played a part.
The colors, the dynamic transitions, it all contributed to the feeling of infinite possibilities.
It wasn't just about the concepts.
They also explored the emotional side of these multiversal encounters.
Like when Miles meets the older Peter B. Parker.
You really see the toll that being Spider-Man has taken on him.
He's lost his way a bit.
He's cynical, jaded.
It's Miles' youthful optimism that helps him rediscover the joy in being a hero.
Their dynamic is really interesting.
It's a classic mentor-mentee relationship.
So the multiversal twist.
Peter brings the experience, the wisdom.
And Miles reminds him of those core values that make Spider-Man who he is.
Flashpoint throws you right into the chaos.
It's a much more visceral experience.
You immediately see the devastation caused by Barry's actions.
The world's on the verge of collapse.
Heroes are twisted.
Unrecognizable.
There's a sense of dread hanging over everything.
But it pulls you in right away.
Thomas Wayne, as this vengeful Batman.
It's a striking change.
He's fueled by grief over losing Bruce.
Led him down a dark path.
It's a reminder that even the most iconic heroes
Aren't immune to trauma, to loss.
they can be corrupted.
Twisted into something else entirely.
And then there's Wonder Woman and Aquaman
At war.
tearing the world apart,
It's hard to imagine those two
who are normally allies.
fighting with such intensity.
Their conflict comes from this web of political maneuvering.
And personal betrayals.
A reminder that even in a world of superheroes,
Human emotions, political agendas.
they can have these devastating consequences.
Bringing about destruction and suffering.
It's interesting how both films use mentorship
To explore different facets of heroism.
into the Spider-Verse.
It's heartwarming.
Miles and Peter learning from each other.
Rediscovering what it means to be Spider-Man.
In Flashpoint,
It's twisted.
Thomas Wayne, the mentor.
Teaching this alternate Bruce.
Lessons rooted in violence and vengeance.
It's like a dark reflection.
Of that traditional Batman and Robin dynamic.
Showing how a corrupted mentor can warp a young hero.
The multiverse becomes a way to explore legacy.
How our actions influence those who come after us.
Into the Spider-Verse.
We see that passing of the torch.
From one generation of Spider-Man to the next.
Miles taking up the mantle.
Continuing that legacy of responsibility and heroism.
It's hopeful.
In Flashpoint,
It's the opposite.
one misguided action leading to ruin.
For countless lives.
Heroes corrupted. The world on the brink of collapse.
It underscores the interconnectedness of events.
And the lasting consequences of our actions.
Even those made with good intentions.
Both stories tap into our anxieties about choice and consequence.
It's something we all grapple with.
But the Spider-Verse offers a more optimistic view.
Suggesting that we can choose to be better.
That our actions can have a positive impact, even against incredible odds.
It's empowering.
Flashpoint is bleaker.
Emphasizing the potential for disaster.
Even from seemingly good intentions.
It highlights the fragility of reality.
And the need for caution when dealing with forces beyond our understanding.
We have these two contrasting views.
On the one hand, the potential for good.
The power of choice.
On the other, the potential for darkness.
And the unintended consequences of our actions.
It makes you think about the choices you make every day.
And what impact they might have, not just on your life.
But on the world around you.
And maybe even on other universes.
The possibilities are endless.
That's the beauty of the multiverse. It's a world on the brink, completely different from that Spider-Verse optimism.
Barry really messed things up trying to change history.
Yeah, he created this warped reality.
What are some of the biggest changes?
Well, the heroes we know, they're almost unrecognizable.
Like who?
Thomas Wayne, for example.
Batman's dad.
He's Batman in this timeline, but brutal.
Wow.
Driven by grief over losing Bruce, he has no problem killing.
That's dark. A good guy turned bad.
It shows you how even the best intentions can get twisted.
Makes you think about what could happen to any of us under the wrong circumstances.
Exactly. Flashpoint forces us to confront that.
What about Superman?
He's a completely different Superman. A tragic one.
In what way?
Captured by the government when he landed on Earth.
No way.
Kept isolated, never experienced a normal life.
So no farm boy upbringing.
No. He's weak, withdrawn, a shell of the Superman we know.
It's like nature versus nurture.
You could say that. He never had the chance to become the hero.
So sad. What about Wonder Woman and Aquaman?
Forget about allies.
They're not fighting, are they?
They're at war. A full-blown global conflict.
Seriously?
Stems from a failed romance, political maneuvering. The whole thing escalated.
Wow, talk about bad blood.
It shows how even the most powerful heroes can cause destruction.
When driven by those personal vendettas.
And political ambitions, things get ugly fast.
It's a reminder that even in a world of superpowered beings, human nature prevails.
Absolutely. Flashpoint is a cautionary tale, showing that even good intentions can backfire spectacularly.
Barry's attempt to save his mom ended up dooming everyone.
He unleashed chaos by messing with the timeline.
It really makes you think about the butterfly effect.
Every action has a consequence, and those consequences can ripple outwards.
You can't just change the past without affecting the present and the future.
It highlights how interconnected everything is.
The contrast between the Spider-Verse and Flashpoint is fascinating.
One celebrates possibilities, the other warns of dangers.
The Spider-Verse shows teamwork, hope, people from different backgrounds coming together.
Flashpoint is all about isolation, fear, and the breakdown of society.
It's like they're exploring opposite sides of the same coin.
They both use the multiverse to tell compelling stories, but with very different tones.
One's hopeful, the other's bleak.
But both are thought-provoking.
The multiverse, as a concept is mind-boggling.
Infinite possibilities, alternate versions of ourselves.
Does free will even exist if there are endless versions of us making different choices?
It raises questions about fate, destiny, the nature of reality itself.
Flashpoint asks if we're truly in control or just playing out predetermined roles.
And is ignorance bliss in that situation?
Better not to know.
Maybe, but the curiosity is always there.
To peek behind the curtain, to see what might have been,
These stories give us a safe way to explore those questions.
to imagine different outcomes, different paths.
It's a form of mental exploration, a way to grapple with those big existential questions.
Into the Spider-Verse, Miles chooses to become Spider-Man,
It seems like a personal choice, but it has huge consequences.
saving his universe.
Maybe even more.
And in Flashpoint, Barry tries to do something good,
Save his mom.
but it leads to destruction, misery.
A classic example of the butterfly effect in action.
One choice can set off a chain reaction.
It can change everything.
The interconnectedness of events is terrifying and fascinating.
It makes you realize that you're part of something much bigger than yourself.
Into the Spider-Verse did a great job visually explaining these concepts.
It made it easy to grasp, even if you weren't familiar with the multiverse.
They didn't get bogged down in the science.
It was more about the visuals, the feeling, the emotions.
Like Miles jumping between dimensions.
It felt like a literal leap of faith.
The animation style itself enhanced the story.
The vibrant colors, the way they transition between dimensions.
It gave a sense of endless possibilities,
The multiverse is a visual feast in that movie.
and they didn't shy away from the emotional impact.
The toll that being Spider-Man takes.
Like with Peter B. Parker.
He's jaded, lost his spark.
But Miles helps him rediscover the joy in being a hero.
It's a reminder that even when you're down, you can find your way back.
Peter's experience and Miles's optimism made for a great dynamic.
A classic mentor-mentee relationship, but with a twist.
Flashpoint is a completely different experience.
It's darker, grittier.
You're thrown right into the chaos.
Barry's actions have already reshaped the world.
And it's not pretty.
It's a world teetering on the edge of annihilation.
With heroes turned villains.
And the innocent caught in the crossfire.
Thomas Wayne as Batman.
A symbol of what can happen when grief consumes you.
He's lost his way.
Twisted by the pain of losing Bruce.
It's a stark contrast to the Batman we know,
This one is driven by vengeance.
not justice.
It's a warning about the slippery slope of revenge.
And then you have Wonder Woman and Aquaman.
Locked in a war that's tearing the world apart.
It's hard to imagine those two fighting.
They're usually symbols of peace, unity.
But in this timeline, they represent division and destruction.
It shows how easily those lines can blur, how even the best of us can fall.
It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and ambition.
In the wrong hands, even good intentions can pave the road to hell.
The contrast between the mentorship in Into the Spider-Verse and Flashpoint is striking.
In one, it's a positive force, guiding Miles on his journey.
Peter helps him understand what it means to be Spider-Man.
He passes on the torch, the legacy.
In Flashpoint, mentorship is corrupted.
Thomas Wayne's influence on Bruce is toxic.
It's about vengeance, not heroism.
It's a twisted reflection of that traditional Batman and Robin dynamic.
It shows how a corrupted mentor can poison the well.
And lead a young hero down a dark path.
Both films use mentorship to explore different aspects of heroism.
In one, it's about nurturing potential, guiding someone towards the light.
In the other, it's about twisting that potential, leading someone towards darkness.
It raises questions about the nature of influence and responsibility.
How our actions can have unintended consequences, shaping the lives of others.
It's a theme that runs through both stories, albeit in very different ways.
These multiverse stories make us think about legacy, about the impact we have on the world.
And on those who come after us.
Into the Spider-Verse, Miles takes up the mantle of Spider-Man.
He carries on the legacy of responsibility and heroism.
But in Flashpoint, Barry's actions create a legacy of destruction.
It's a cautionary tale about the butterfly effect, about how one choice can have far-reaching consequences.
It's like throwing a stone into a pond,
The ripples spread out, touching everything.
and you can never truly know how far those ripples will go.
It's a humbling thought to realize that you have that much power.
Both stories play with our anxieties about choice and consequence.
They ask us to consider what we would do in those situations,
The Spider-Verse offers hope.
suggesting that even in the face of overwhelming odds, we can choose to be better, to make a difference.
Flashpoint offers a bleaker perspective.
It highlights the potential for disaster, even from well-intentioned actions.
It's a reminder that we're not always in control.
And that sometimes Even our best efforts can backfire.
It's a thought-provoking contrast.
Two different takes on the multiverse, on the power of choice, on the consequences of our actions.
They make you think about your own life, your own choices.
And how they might impact the world around you.
It's incredible how these stories make you feel. The emotional stakes are so high.
The multiverse provides fertile ground for exploring the human experience.
Like loss, regret, even the weight of responsibility.
It's all amplified when you consider infinite possibilities.
In Flashpoint, Barry's dealing with a lot of guilt.
He desperately wants to fix things.
To undo the damage he caused.
His journey to restore the timeline is filled with tough choices.
He even has to work with this world's Batman.
Who, as we've discussed, is a very different Batman.
It's wild to think about Barry Allen, a beacon of hope, having to team up with someone so brutal.
It shows how drastically different these alternate versions of heroes can be.
Makes you wonder how much of our personality is set in stone and how much is shaped by our experiences.
Flashpoint explores that idea.
The multiverse becomes a mirror, reflecting the potential for both good and evil.
It forces us to consider the paths not taken, the choices we didn't make.
How do you even begin to fix a broken timeline?
It's not as simple as running back in time.
Barry has to tap into the Speed Force.
The source of his powers.
But it's not just about raw speed.
He has to confront Pandora, the being responsible for creating this altered reality.
It sounds like he's bitten off more than he can chew.
He's dealing with forces beyond his control, consequences that extend far beyond his initial understanding.
Even if he manages to restore the timeline,
The damage is done.
he can't just erase what happened.
The experience changes him.
He gains a new understanding of the butterfly effect, of the interconnectedness of time, the fragility of reality.
Flashpoint isn't just about fixing the timeline, it's about Barry confronting his mistakes and accepting the consequences.
It's a powerful lesson about responsibility, about how even well-intentioned actions can have unforeseen and devastating outcomes.
Flashpoint had huge repercussions for the DC universe.
It led to a complete reboot.
A new continuity known as the New 52.
So it wasn't just a contained story.
It reshaped the entire comic book universe.
The multiverse can be a tool for radical change, for starting fresh.
It opens up possibilities for new stories, new interpretations of familiar characters.
It's fascinating how the multiverse can be used in such different ways.
To expand possibilities, as in the Spider-Verse, or to completely reset the board, as in Flashpoint.
It's a testament to the power of imagination, of storytelling.
Both narratives leave us with questions that linger.
About the nature of reality, about the choices we make, about the impact we have on the world around us.
They challenge us to think about the multiverse not just as a backdrop for superhero adventures, but as a mirror reflecting our own hopes and fears.
In the Spider-Verse, Miles initially struggles with his powers.
He doesn't feel ready to be Spider-Man.
He gets guidance from an unlikely source.
Peter B. Parker, a Spider-Man from another dimension.
Peter's not exactly the ideal mentor.
He's jaded, disillusioned, tired of being Spider-Man.
But somehow, it works.
Their relationship is a highlight of the film. It's funny and heartwarming.
They learn from each other.
Miles gains confidence and learns the ropes.
And Peter rediscovers the joy in being a hero.
It's a reminder that even when we're lost, we can find our way back.
Even in the darkness of Flashpoint, mentorship plays a role.
Though it's a much more twisted version.
Thomas Wayne becomes a mentor to this alternate Bruce.
The Bruce who witnessed his parents' deaths in this timeline.
But Thomas's guidance is warped by his own pain.
He teaches Bruce about vengeance, about brutality, about the futility of hope.
It's a chilling contrast to the mentorship we see in the Spider-Verse.
It shows how easily good intentions can be corrupted, how the wrong kind of guidance can poison even the purest of hearts.
Both stories highlight the power of mentorship.
It can shape us, guide us, change the course of our lives.
For better or worse.
The act of passing down knowledge, wisdom, even just a listening ear.
It's a fundamental part of the human experience.
We all need mentors, guides, people who believe in us and help us find our way.
It's about connection.
It's about recognizing that we don't have to go through life alone.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
From the soaring heights of the Spider-Verse
To the bleak depths of Flashpoint.
We've seen how the multiverse can be used to tell stories that are both entertaining and thought-provoking.
Stories that make us question our perceptions of reality, our understanding of heroism.
Stories that remind us of the power of choice and the importance of responsibility.
The multiverse isn't just a science fiction concept.
It's a reflection of our own hopes and fears, a playground for our imaginations, a reminder that there's always more to explore, more to discover.
The stories we've discussed today are just a small glimpse into the vast possibilities of the multiverse.
It's a concept that continues to fascinate us, to challenge us, to inspire us.
So keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep imagining.
Because in the multiverse, anything is possible.